that they can benefit from having the recording later. Welcome back and welcome to the session. My name is Louise van Rijn. Many of you we may have met. I have the privilege of leading the Symphonia community, and today I have the privilege to introduce Buyani Zwane from you. So Buyani, where are you? We need you to, there he is. And I'm going to spotlight him for everybody so that we can all easily see him. Buyani is the CEO of Breakthrough Development, but I'm going to ask Buyani to, before he starts to be all thought leaderish and, you know, important, to give us a bit of a sense as to who is Buyani? Where did he come from? How is it that, so we discovered earlier that Buyani and I were born in the same year. Now, nobody's allowed to give us feedback around who carries their years better, because we all both just going to accept that both of us look gorgeous for our age.
Yeah, right.
We've been on this planet for 56 years already. And now we want to find out, just so Buyani, you've got 10 minutes to tell us the potted history of those 56 years.
Well, Gerrit Kloete would be able to tell you a little bit about me. I can see him on the screen.
He already told me about you.
He can tell you lots about me. Because we met up almost 22 years ago when I was out in Secunda, and he was actively getting things going in terms of people being highly productive and positively effective in the things they do. So there is somebody who knows me. I originate from Umhlabelingana, northern KwaZulu-Natal. I was raised by formidable women who made sure that I was connected to nature and I was connected to what was organic. So I grew up pretty much drawing my protein straight off the rivers and the ponds, and later on getting all the way through to Kosi Lake and Kosi Bay, and in that environment utilizing what is called the Chwaela harvesting, as it were. We got to be able to have fresh fish that's caught on the day, and we only use what it is that we pull out what we need only. So that's where I grew up. I was then afforded the chance to be at a boarding school environment at Star of the Sea. From there, I went up to the University of Zululand, and we had our school aerobics. We called them doi doi. So our university was closed, and Jayshree knows that. So we doi doied like crazy in that space. And the university was closed down. And that closure led me to Cape Town, and Cape Town was the first time that I got to be able to engage with people beyond school, beyond hospital, beyond shop, because those are the environments that I'd been exposed to. And of course, much more of diversity. That's where I was shaped up. I spent a good 10 years in various parts of the Western Cape, but initially in the Cape Flats. Flowing from there, then moved on to Mpumalanga to get organizational development going for ESCOM before it became HCOM. And we were doing a lot of things at that time because we were transitioning the country to ensuring that electricity was accessible to many more people. And from there, went off to Secunda, turning oil out of simple coal, and then spent a lot of time. That's where Gerrit got to meet with me. So, yeah. I'm now based in Joburg. I had the privilege of taking over from Gerrit and leading the Franklin Covey enterprise from about 2002, which brought me access to one of the foremost thought leaders of the 20th century, Stephen R. Covey. And we got to be actively involved in matters of human effectiveness, personal effectiveness. Did that until about 2010, and then Breakthrough Development came alive all the more. Spent a lot of time at the Gordon Institute of Business Science, which is a business school that most people get their MBAs and other qualifications from. And while there, got to be working for Sanlam, got to be in the council of UCT, got to be active at UNISA. Yeah, lot of things about Buyani.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Buyani. And Buyani and I are also on a very interesting WhatsApp group that Ashraf Garda convened. So it's just a different perspective on this kind of beautiful, multicultural, challenging, complex environment we live in. And
Sure.
and today we're here. And we're here because a while ago, Buyani, you had one article published on the 2nd of August, and then another one later on. And in both of those articles, you are calling for leaders to lead. And then you have a very special acronym that you use when you refer to lead, L-E-A-D. And I think, is that what you're going to be talking us through a bit? And then, so what we're going to do is we're going to give the floor to Buyani. I'm hoping that you're all going to sit there and mine all the pools of wisdom that's going to come out of this. And then we will also create an opportunity for a conversation after we've heard from Buyani. So keep your questions ready. I also, Buyani, just with your permission, want to invite people that anybody who wants to share a comment, a thought, a response, any of that in the chat, to please do that. I'll keep an eye on the chat while Buyani is talking to you, and then that will help me to know what questions to ask and how to kind of facilitate the rest of the conversation. So Buyani, with that, we are delighted to have you with us today, and look forward to hearing your thoughts.
Sure, thank you very much. I've got a few thoughts that I'd like to be passing on to you. And essentially, it's about looking into how we lead. What struck me pretty much was what transpired in July, and it spoke to how we were not really being as good as we should be as leaders. So I needed to be able to draw some insights from, sages that we've lived with. And thankfully, yesterday there was a celebration of the 90th birthday of Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu. And that also led me to be able to reconsider some of the key messages we need to be able to bring forward. Rolihlahla Mandela used to be able to say something so fundamental that says, a good head and a good heart are always a formidable combination. But when you add to that a very literate tongue and pen, then you have something very special. I am hoping that in the treatise that we had in the Independent online and people got to be able to read, they found something that would resonate with them as well. And my thanks really goes through to Adri, who took that article and made it as public as could be. And of course, Louise, you played a significant role in getting the Champions Group to be able to get into picking up what were the stories behind that. What has really driven much of the work that I do is from Stephen Covey's writing that says, always begin everything with the end in mind. And our earlier conversation looked into the fact that so often people are looking for someone to be able to come and save them, when in fact, we are the ones who carry the key to that. So as in my engagements in leadership conversations, I'm always asking people, can we get to the top class performance ourselves? Can we get to a point where we are equipping and growing leaders? And then can we make excellence the way of life? If we could make those three things really work and repeat them, just maybe, we could be getting what we're looking for. So just by way of context in this session, for me, I would like for us to be able to reflect on the fact that we are now at a point where we're preparing for local elections. And as local elections come through, that's where we get to be able to feel what our having outsourced some of the things that we do to politicians get to, and we need to be able to have an opportunity of really revisiting, are we getting what we were promised? Are we moving in the direction that we needed to be able to move towards? July brought to us a significant wake-up call. And that wake-up call was one that was distinguishing leaders from pretenders. Many pretend to be leaders when in fact they are nowhere near being leaders. It is critical for us to be able to really ask ourselves what makes for a leader. And LEAD captures that for me. And I'm going to be going into that as a critical point, as it were, and I call it the lead foursome. And that lead foursome is an acrostic that I'm going to be spending a bit of time with you on. And it will be my intention that starting tomorrow, and in fact, maybe starting at about just after 3, we begin to have a different engagement altogether. So what's LEAD all about? I have come to appreciate that many of us, particularly men, have been taught never to show our emotions. We have been taught for so long that if we share our emotions, that is a weakness. And therefore, we should be people who remain in a space where we are only thinking, doing, but not feeling. And here's the critical thing that comes with that. As we engage in thinking and doing without feeling, we may very well be brushing through people who need so much of us to engage with them. If nothing else, COVID-19 for the last 562 days, what it has brought through to us is the necessity to get to who we are with. I love the fact that, Louise, you got us started by checking in our spaces in those 7 minutes that we had, which moved so quickly that just as I was getting used to Mutibedi and Adendorf, we were called back inside. So there is something in there. But what I would love to be able to bring forth is that too often we've been told in the workplace, we don't have to like each other. We just have to work together. Now, to me, that has been an error of management. It is not what is carried through by those who lead. Leading starts with love. And it is love first for self, without being narcissistic. It is taking care of who I am. My friend Stephen used to be able to call it sharpen your soul, which means there is a necessity to be able to go and take care of yourself, body, heart, mind, and spirit. And when you do that, the next thing you want to do is to be able to look after the people you are with. Before COVID-19, we went and drove to the offices. From the 1st of October, a good many of us have returned to the office. And what we got to be able to appreciate was that when we are in the office, we are spending at least 1/3 of our life at work. And if we're spending 1/3 of our life at work, we might as well love the people we're with. But if we do not, we find ourselves in situations where we use people instead of people growing with us. Here is the opportunity that we get to have as leaders. Madiba got to be able to show this to us in that right at the beginning of his presidency, he made it very clear that whatever he was going to be paid, he would make half of that go straight away to serving others. And that was a sign of demonstrating love for others. And of course, we know before he passed, many would be trying to be able to present him as the Messiah, and he would say, I'm just a sinner who keeps on trying. Loving others opens their hearts to what ought to be done. Now, if we are leaders who truly love, we would not be happy to be having our beautiful air-conditioned offices, be happy to be able to have our specially selected and set up workstations and parking while everybody else is struggling. If we care about the people that we are with, it also translates into our care for the organization we are part of. And when we care about the organization that we're part of, they in turn care for everybody else. So back to July. what transpired in July was something that was communicating to us the desperate nature and condition that people were at. And what they were looking for was just survival. And the challenge that I picked up from there and wrote the article on the basis of was, had we shown love as we should, we would have been able to ease off the challenges that people were going through. But because we have been too narcissistic and really caring about ourselves, we missed out on the opportunity to be able to express love. I got my instruction on that out of reading from one of the greatest warriors and kings of old. And his demonstration of love was such that on a particular occasion, when people had gone and navigated very difficult terrains, brought him water, he decided to pour out that water as an offering. And he said, my love for you is what is driving me. The second thing that became very critical for me to be able to appreciate in July was the E. E is about equipping. Now, what are we talking about equipping for? It is equipping us to move from efficiency to effectiveness, equipping us to be able to get to a point where we become empathetic towards others. And when empathy leads us, we get to be able to feel what others feel. And that's the crucial thing that I wanted to be able to express in the article. I believe that, and again, Madiba got to be able to show us the science around this in the time when he began to start this process of ensuring that every end of the year, Christmas season, he would be bringing children over to Kunu, and they would be receiving things that really get them for a moment to forget about the worries, forget about all things, and just be children and be treated as children that are loved. But another thing that really came through in the space of empathy was, for me, a necessity to be able to realize that when we are empathetic, we will then be able to not check up on people, but we'll be checking in with people. So when we contact them, as we do, because the working hours now have become so blurred that we're doing work, we're doing work, and we're doing homework, and we do all of those. We actually get to be able to want to know: are you still on the project? Are you doing the thing? Whereas people are actually asking for me as a leader and for you as a leader, I am person. Just feel me, ask what's happening in the world. In fact, mental health has become a very critical thing that we as leaders are needing to be able to appreciate. I've had an opportunity out of working with the various executives at the Gordon Institute of Business Science, and also those who are clients of mine, to be able to begin to get to appreciate what most employees are grappling with. And it is this that effective leaders who are empathic, not empathetic, just empathic, which is consistent, again, with what my friend Stephen presented, that we need to seek first to understand where the people are at and then to be understood. If we begin in that manner, we are going to be able to go further. So back to July, empathy would have given us a different response to the people that were, as it is called, looting or doing the things that they were doing that were just not right. Instead of being bashed as they got to be bashed, instead of things being thrown out as they were being thrown out, instead of things being hauled out of their homes as they were being hauled out, it would have been done with much more care. A, in my lead story, is about anticipating. I truly believe that the leadership of our country and the leadership of organizations by now would have been in a position, by July, would have been in a position to be able to anticipate that things are going to go pear-shaped unless there is a deliberate intervention. At the start of 2020, we got to be able to appreciate that virtually every 100 years, there's been a pandemic of some sort. We look back right up to 1720 and we spoke to the French plague. We look back to 1820, we talked to the cholera outbreak. We look back to 1920 and we spoke to the French, to the Spanish flu. And when 2020 showed up, really and truly, many of us ought to have been ready and we were not. Our hospital environments were not ready for that. What was going on? We do things without learning from history. History has a way of repeating itself, and it is only when we are prepared to learn from it that we can carve a better future. Anticipatory leadership would have been able to say, we spent the first 280 days, which was up to the 31st of December 2020, getting everything ready, getting even, makeshift and remote hospital facilities. At the start of 2021, we ought to have been doing things differently. We also needed to be able to anticipate. This is the 45th year of the student uprising of 1976. Therefore, we needed to be able to do things that are going to be able to say what people were working for way back in 76, and it's going to be, again, back in 55, was something critical that came through to our country. How are we going to be able to mark this? Leaders that are anticipatory would surround themselves with people who are not necessarily from their own grouping, but people from elsewhere. Why is this important? We are now, as it turns out to be, living with 6 generations under one roof or in the same community. And if we look at what's coming through from those 6 communities, we have the builders who have grown up in a time where things were scarce. And this is 1929 to about 1945. Those people have got a different approach to life. Everything is to be done carefully. They're the only people who actually believe in ESCOM switching off the lights, that we must switch off the lights. And then you've got the boomers who come through between 46 and 64, just before Louise and I got to be able to get into this world, but we were conceived just at the end of it, at the end of that year, okay? And these are people who actually got to be able to grow up in an environment where creating things for yourself is the thing to do. Now, what you'll also be able to appreciate is that many of the businesses we have were set up by people who were born in that generation. Microsoft, Apple, Cisco, those large enterprises were brought into bear by people born in that generation. And then, of course, came our generation. And we got to be the ones who began to talk to work-life balance, because for the first time, we needed to be able to sort things for ourselves and understand, but we're working long hours and we were trying things out, right? And the generation that came after us, that came after us, I refer to as millennials. And here are people who get to be, again, very creative, but creativity that is technology enabled. And things are happening in that space. Now imagine having a millennial along with a builder. They don't talk the same language. But if they get to be able to have a conversation about the future, we can be able to anticipate things, which incidentally, the alpha generation is dealing with. That is learning from the past, but collaborating and co-creating. So just to wrap my A about anticipation, I do believe, there's a Z generation that I didn't speak to, and this is a generation that comes through between 1990 and 2010 when we were hosting the World Cup. And that's a very interesting generation, because it's a generation that grows up with social media and virtually everything. So when we got to be able to have Facebook down, they were the most unhappy people around. They grappled a lot more because they couldn't do anything with WhatsApp, couldn't do anything with Facebook itself. They couldn't do anything with Instagram. So all of those were problematic, as it were. When you think about it, if we choose as leaders to be anticipatory, we'll be able to ask, how can we use the best of all of those generations? How can we get mentors and coaches amongst the people who are not worried about being overtaken, but would want to have their legacy carried through by the next generation? D is specifically about our destiny. And my argument in here is that all of us have got destiny written in our lives. And yet, for some reason, we hold it to ourselves. We do not share that. Matiba got to be able to be very strategic in telling us, it's in your hands. The future is in your hands. My task was to be able to transition us from apartheid as it was, avoid the bloodbath, and get to nation building. That was my task. Guys, you have the responsibility of sorting out the future. And that future is one that caused all those zigzags in the 27th of April, 1994, where everybody was looking for a better life. Now, if everybody is looking to be able to have a better life, is our task or as leaders being carried through when we only care about ourselves? When we care about others, we then are going to be able to talk to sustainability, the future that we may not be a part of, but we set in motion what is needed for them. What is our destiny? Each one of us has been brought into the universe with two clenched fists. And in those fists, we're written our purposes. And too often, we are so busy imitating others that our purpose is not being carried out. And I believe that effective leaders would be spending their time asking people, what are you here about? I can give you a job which describes the things that you do to avoid being broke, because job is the journey of the broke. But there's something else that you're about. Work. Work is from within. It is knowing the why of rising. When you know the why of rising, time does not matter. And I believe that our leadership gets to be carried out better when we help people to identify their own destinies. So that's the bit I wanted to be able to carry through in the acrostic of lead. There is, towards the close, what I will be able to share with us in terms of really how do we carry ourselves that is starting tomorrow. Thanks, Louise.
Wow. Okay, so I think you can stop the sharing, Buyani, so that we can see names and we can see the group. And so we do want to, we've got another 40 minutes or 50 minutes or so, and we will go back into those small groups. Tasneem, if you could just kind of remain ready to go back into the same small groups for a quick kind of debrief. But before we do that, let's just hear from a few people, and please feel free to share your thoughts in the chat. And the way to indicate that you want to ask Buyani a question or engage in this last group is to unmute yourself. So Org, I see you unmuted. Does that mean you want to say something?
No.
No. Okay,
I'm reading.
That was by mistake. Okay, so I'm muting Org and I'm inviting anybody who wants to say something. So Yetu Sitole. Yetu, we'd love to hear from you. Yetu?
Yes, yeah, I've been having a connection problems. Sorry, I just rejoined the meeting.
Okay,
Apologies.
fantastic. Okay, I'll mute you as well, Yetu. Now, we are inviting anybody, if you've got a question or a comment or want to ask Buyani something, because if we don't have immediate responses, we're going to ask you to go back and we're going to send you back to the breakout room for a conversation in a smaller group. I see there's a comment from, I see someone has put his hand up this way. So just unmute yourself and we'd love to hear from you.
I think I'm unmuted. Hi, Buyani. Nice to see you again. I would like to just to hear from Buyani his comment on this comment that I heard one day about how to improve leadership, how to make our leaders better leaders, and how his framework of lead fits into this comment. Better leadership is simply making it easier for people to follow us. I'm a person that I kind of like that idea. So, if we make it easier for people to follow us, then we are by definition better leaders. Buyani, your comments.
Thank you very much. You will have noticed that when I presented my slide of the trio of what it is that in a space of leadership I seek to be able to help people to go to, I indicated the second thing is about equipping and growing leaders. I really believe that we need to be spending less time worrying about followers and more time grooming next leaders. Because when we do that, we make it such that people are not threatened. We should not be in a space where we are the indispensable ones. We are the ones that know it all. And of course, there is an element of, in an 80-20 kind of setup, I would accept 20% of our time being about making others to be able to follow with ease. But I really believe that our task is about helping people to be the best they are capable of. We are all endowed with seeds of greatness, but too often we are busy following that our true selves do not show. And in the workplace in particular, we work to rule. We work per standard in a manner that really does not necessarily build the best in us. So I would encourage that our task, our time be devoted to unleashing the leadership in everyone. Because after all, we are here on earth to fulfill a purpose, not to be following others' instructions. We need to do our thing. Thank you.
Buyani, I want to say amen, brother. But I'm not in church, so let me not do that. I so agree. Absolutely. I'm so inspired by what you're saying. It so resonates with everything that I believe in. But let's hear whether anybody else has a comment before we go back into the small groups. I'm not seeing anybody. I am going to invite you to go into the small group. And Tasneem, I'm assuming that you can get people back into the groups that they were before, and those people who were not assigned, we'll assign you to a small group. And the opportunity in that small group is to just share with the other people in your little group what struck you about what you heard from Buyani. And if you have, so do one round with what struck you. And if you have another round, you can talk about, and what questions are you sitting with right now? So what struck you and what questions are you sitting with? And then when you come back into the main room, we'll hear some of those questions. So Tasneem is going to open the breakout rooms. You could just accept that invitation. Please check the time. We're gonna give, let's make it 8 minutes, Taz. Is that okay?
Rooms are open.
Rooms are open. Please accept that invitation. Those are not assigned to a room will be assigned very quickly.
All the rooms have remained the same, and I've just slotted in people that were not assigned.
Okay. Thank you. I have indicated that you want to say something is just to unmute yourself. We just need to quickly make sure that everybody's muted. I want to now invite anybody who wants to say something to either share that in the chat, just share what came out of your conversations now, whether it's a question or a reflection or something that struck you. Either share it in the chat, which is you're very welcome to do, but also you can just unmute yourself and then we'll give you a chance to speak, or put your electronic hand up because I may not see your physical hand. Martha, and then we'll go to Maureen after Martha.
Yeah. So we learned a lot as a team, and we gave each other a chance to reflect. And what resonated more was that love, leading from a place of love, is a concept that is not readily acceptable. We focusing more on productivity and performance and chasing the goals. And the other thing that came up was culture also dictate how leaders lead our teams. And what came out there was culture is an ongoing process that we go through, but we need to understand the environment and share the vision and not dictate the vision to the people that report into us. So empowering others came through quite a lot to say it's so difficult to empower others while trying to chase goals, chase targets. So that also came, it resonated. And what Jayshree mentioned was EQ is very crucial for leaders.
Thank you, Martha. I'm going to let Buyani respond to it. I just want to find out from, while he unmutes himself, from you in the group, whether, you know, Dr. Phil has this beautiful question when people say, well, you know, leading from a place of love is not acceptable. And my question to you and everybody else is, how's that working? How's it working for us to not lead from a place of love? Would you agree, Martha, it's not working so well?
No, it's not working so well, but I think it goes back to what leadership and leadership maybe, but management has been put across as telling people what to do and chasing targets, productivity here and there. And there's no time to actually stop and reflect and find out if the people that you are leading are on the same journey as you. So it is that as well, to say leading from a place of love is now crucial. It's what actually come out now while we're working from home, just to check in with the people, how they're doing, are they okay? Is there a reason why they're not meeting target? Because it's taken away from the corridor talks that we used to have, the little chats in the coffee area, post areas, that has been taken away. And that was a form of love that we could show. Now we don't have that anymore as well. So it is not working at the moment.
It's not working. So Buyani, we'd love to hear some thoughts and reflections from you before I hand over to Simon.
Organizations where love is not expressed, organizations where you find people working to rule, that we spoke about. People go to spaces where they're about downing tools, in part because they feel that they are being treated as things, not as human. Where you've expressed love, people go the extra mile. You know, in the business environment, we've gone through this process of checking employee satisfaction levels. And virtually every year in the culture space, that has been done. Gallup came through and then got to be able to introduce the terminology of engagement. And what we're finding is that we've got many organizations with people who are just there to collect the check. And as you're talking about this whole issue of persons in the space being noted for productivity, you definitely will get the produce, but you won't get the quality that comes through when people are engaged in something they love. Take yourself to 1994. Madiba came and got to be able to receive a vehicle that was assembled by the employees of Mercedes-Benz in their own time, not in company time. All they asked for from the company were parts that they could use to build that vehicle. And of course, if you get to be able to visit the Apartheid Museum right here in Joburg, you'll be able to see it for real. This was done by people who were feeling love and expressing love to somebody they consider to be their leader. But their organization also afforded them the space to express love. That's the thing that makes the difference. And you were asking Louise, you know, how is it when love is not expressed? Well, what we get is people do just enough to stay out of trouble. It's called being disengaged or detached. So you do the thing, but you don't even put your signature on it because it's not an expression of you.
Yeah, and I think for me it's that kind of, you know, the magic. I think for me this idea of well, two ideas. One is is discretionary energy. So what you're talking about is when there's love and great relationships and people feel that they belong and they're part of a community, then they're willing to give discretionary energy. Hubert Jolie's latest book called The Heart of Business. I don't know whether you've read it, but it is so worth reading. But in the book, he talks about human energy. Oh, no, sorry, human magic. So he says it's about releasing human magic. And I think what you and I both care about is the idea of releasing human magic. But let's see. I see Simone has got her hand up, so we'd love to hear from Simone as well. So Simone.
Good afternoon, everybody. Nice meeting people that I've never seen. I'm going to speak from a leader's point of view because I am a leader and I'm a manager, and I just want to tell people that this is my personal point of view. And also, I like I said before in the previous meeting, that I teach online. I have 2 jobs, but so I connect with the world on a daily basis. And there's one thing that connects us as people, and that's values. And that values comes from your culture. And love stays love. You show love the same way. I don't know of something if you show love differently. I don't know. But I'm trying to say, as a leader, I've learned to keep a balance. And that balance with my staff members is that, yes, I can trust Simi. And when Simi makes a mistake, Simi admits. But then what I do the right thing, which is integrity. I show them as a leader, if I made a mistake, I would say, oh, I made a mistake, but I show them how I fix it. And that is, for me, lead by example. I can only talk about it. And yes, Buyani, I lead by love. I tell you why, because I give my staff the opportunity to feel me. And when they feel me, but it's something that I've learned as a leader is assertiveness, and I practice it. And at the end of the day, I realized I have raised my children like that also, is to show them that when you do the right thing, it's love. And I don't know how others feel. And I get, when you lead with love, it's amazing that the staff go an extra mile. Then it's not about productivity. It's about, I'm prepared to give a little more of myself. I don't have to be remunerated for it. And that is, for me as a leader, you can't put your money next to it. And yes, Buyani, we have to learn about the past and the good things of each generation, whether it's the millennial or X or whatever it is, and to make and look ahead and respect our diversity and practice inclusivity. I believe that's a winner, because I am telling you, whether you live wherever in the world, God made us all the same. We all came out of a mother, no else. And I feel, I'm just being straight, I am just that type of person. But I feel it, Buyani. We can develop. It's not impossible, but we all have to stick together. That's just from my heart, okay?
Simone, before you disappear and before we hand over to Buyani, let's just hear, are you a principal? You said you're a leader. What's your role at Plumstead Prep?
Yes, I'm a deputy principal, and I am in charge of curriculum, and I develop the staff members, and I also train teachers. So as a leader, I've learned a lot. Yes. So
to hear, I'm always excited to hear from leaders in education who have that particular attitude. So Buyani, you must also be inspired, and it sounds like Simone speaks your language. She speaks our language.
That's sorry.
You are muted, Buyani. You just need to unmute.
Absolutely. Here is something that I'd like to be able to build on from Simone's presentation. it is important to be able to understand that the language of love is not all the same. And it is important for us, and we truly get to be able to express love well when we understand where people are at and what love means to them. There are people who would want to be able to, we borrow this from the formula that Einstein gave through to us, E equals mc squared. And we refer to that in language of leadership, that enthusiasm and excellence comes through when there is motion and attachment to the mission. Okay, that's M. And then C squared is congratulations and cash. Now, when people don't get to be congratulated for the work that they do, often they actually get to find themselves receiving praise elsewhere, because at home or right where they are, they're not being noted. In the language of management, we have confused congratulations with rewards. We give recognition for great work and we reward the results. So that's the first thing. Second thing to be able to look into is that love is expressed. There are some who actually want it to be expressed through acts, particular acts. If we don't understand that, we will constantly be praising them and say, it means nothing. Yeah, words mean nothing. Okay? And there are some who say, your words speak so loud, I cannot hear what you're saying. Therefore, the expression of love needs to be in deeds. And others want to be served. And service is we call it the rent we pay for the privilege of living. That's service. Now, service is perishable. And because it is perishable, it requires refreshing every time. And as a leader, I need to be able to model serving by doing the things that I would love others to be able to copy into the future. Okay? I mean, there is that leader who walked the streets of Gethsemane many years ago. And the last act he did was of serving, washing feet. And not like we did, when we're crossing over from apartheid to, legalized apartheid to the one that is coming through in covert ways. And we had Adrian Flock and everybody else doing the feet washing. This is going to come through from within. And when we serve, we will be able to model to others what service looks like. If I've been through to a 3-star hotel, but I'm looking for a 5-star treatment, I need to be able to educate the people that are in my establishment to go through and watch those who are in a 5-star establishment and bring that to where I am. And when they do that, the customers will keep coming back. And in your environment, Simone, the learners will be recommending this school. We'll be recommending the curriculum of this school. And that's a critical thing. We say we lead by example. Bad example is still an example. So we need to be deliberate about what kind of example we would like to have repeated. And it comes through from a statement that says, we do to others as we would have them do unto us. Now, the beauty about that is that it is applicable in every religion and virtually every philosophy. So that takes us back to the story of empathy. So in the leading with love and equipping everyone inside the organization to be the better version of themselves, we then focus on grooming them to become caring people. That's the thing.
Buyani, thank you for that. I must just tell you, at my school, we have one value for the month and we practice it.
Sure.
And do you know, because I believe that we need to develop our children into better citizens in this country. I like what you said, everybody leads by example, whether it's good or bad. It's so true. It's like sometimes they mirror you. And you know, the value system or the value approach is sometimes for people, it's too slow. But do you know what? One step at a time is a secure step. Buyani, thank you very much. I really appreciate
You're most welcome.
it.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
I want to say just before Simone, we take you off the screen, that watching the two of you as leaders in the conversation, I think was inspirational for all of us. It's a reminder for all of us around what we are being called to do. So good luck with your amazingly important role at Plumstead Prep, Simone, and thank you very much for joining us today. So we have a little bit of time left.
Pleasure.
Thank you. We've got about 10 minutes of just the session, and then we'll kind of wrap up. And I want to create an opportunity if there's one or two more people who want to just share their thoughts or ask a question or make a comment or reply to anything that you heard before. This is your time. Buyani, I don't know whether anything else while people are kind of getting themselves ready to ask something or make a comment, whether there's anything else. Oh, sorry, Khonse's just or put his hand up, her hand up. Khonse, so we'd love to hear from you.
Hi, hello everyone. I just wanted to focus on the D in Buyani's lead and just to ask it in terms of South Africa. So if we look at where we are as a country, the question that we had in our group was just, we don't seem to have a destiny that we all agree on, or a vision or values that we all agree on, much like what we'd have in our organizations, that we clearly state that this is the vision, this is the mission, this is what we need to be doing. And if we don't have that for the country, what does that actually mean? And if we were to have that, how would we go about designing that?
Thank you very much. Here's an initial stab at what we have. Vision is purpose achieved with excellence. When we are clear about what our purpose is, it's going to be easy to be able to have a shared vision. One of the beautiful things in Champion South Africa, which is the body that Louise and I get to be active on, is that what we desire is to be able to turn to this country becoming a model for others in SADC, for others in the continent, and for others in the globe, for what love could be when we do it with the care that, without commercializing Ubuntu, but really living Ubuntu. I know for a fact that there are a couple of TED Talks that have been put up that relate to that. We are on the 44th year of the passing of Stephen Bantu Biko. And one of the statements that he gave through to us was, while the West gave us industrial relations, Africa, indeed South Africa, will give human relations, will give the human face to what we do. We needing to be able to restore the person in this equation. You probably would be familiar, Khonsi, of a story of a dad who is so busy with his work and his daughter keeps coming through to disturb him, and he decides to pull a piece of paper, he breaks it apart, and because it's got the globe on the side, he doesn't know what's on the other side. So he breaks it up and throws it to the kid. And the kid, and he thinks that she's gonna be busy for a long, long time, only to find that the kid looked and turned the pieces over and found that it was a human face. And when she put those together, brings them over to her father, how did you do that so quickly? So just by putting the men together, I put the world together. So my take is that the vision we're needing to be able to have is one of moving from treating human beings as commodities, as things, as fodder, to people that we care about. I also carry with me the story, and Mashia, I can see, is on the call here. We've had this conversation a couple of times. You know, there are people who lived for a long time with more than 630 laws and rules and regulations, and those were brought down to 10. And that was the summary. And that 10 was brought down to 2, and which was, you know, love vertical and love horizontal. And then there was a platinum law that came through. And that platinum law was love as I have loved. And my take is that this nation will go further when we think the alpha generation that has just been born that is 10 years old, 11 years old this year, will be grateful to us if we create a world we wished we had been in ourselves. That, to me, is a dream we need to be able to work towards.
Oh, Buyani, you are just speaking my language. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for that question, Jose. Jose, did you want to respond to that?
No, I just wanted to say thank you. That was, yeah, beautiful reflection. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. So, Buyani, I feel very strongly that we are being called to create the future we are dreaming about. And
Absolutely.
Every one of us can make that happen where we are in our little corner of the world. And it doesn't have, you know, whatever size that corner is, that's where we can create the future that we are committed to. And we do that every time we show up. And you've showed up beautifully today. You've showed up sharing with us how to do that. I am so delighted that we had the opportunity to listen to you. I am going to invite some appreciation from people on the call. Now, we know that the world changed when we start to put our focus on what's strong and when we start to celebrate what's going well with the world. Now, in my mind, Buyani is an example of what's going well with the world. So I want to ask all of you, if you're part of our community, then you will know that we put a lot of effort and focus on appreciation. And this is your opportunity. If you've been inspired or touched in any way this afternoon, and then I want to say to Buyani that once we've had some reflections, we will ask Buyani for patkos for this weekend. But before we do that, please can you? And now I'm now calling on the community that I know and love, and I know who know how to do appreciation, because I don't want to be the only one who does appreciation. So please put your hand up, unmute yourself. We're going to give you a chance to express appreciation, practicing our muscles. Anybody? I'm watching, waiting. No, not yet.
I'm happy with delights that you've just put up there.
Well, delight. So that is so Chantal. It's so lovely to see your name coming up on the screen. And Chantal knows about appreciation. So Chantal,
Yes.
could you?
So just to say that I appreciated how you live your message, your warmth in delivering it shows that you live it every day. What I particularly enjoyed as well is the butterflies behind you. Butterflies have a close affiliation in my space. So thank you.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Chantal. Thank you for reminding us how to do this well. Org, we'd love to hear from you.
I want to connect with what Gonse said about destiny. I think that is one of the breakthroughs for me during the afternoon, and that is to realize that I have to take mutual responsibility for the destiny of the people around me. And I think that is a fantastic place to be, thinking about that. And I think you're going to keep me busy over the weekend too, Buyani, with that idea. How do I do it? How do I really help people to find their destiny? And obviously, you also made that call in the beginning. I need to have my own destiny. I can't help somebody find a destiny without having my own. But that is a critical point for me. I think it's a critical point for us in South Africa to help each other to find a destiny, because I don't think we have a mutual destiny. Not at the moment. I hope we can get there. But I think we are lacking. That is an enormous thing to accomplish, and thanks for that.
I want to just Org, as a reminder to you and to anybody else. I go back to this document every now and again, and maybe this is something for us to do jointly and then talk about what that is. The Vision 2030 document has a preamble, or the National Development Plan has a preamble, and it's called Vision 2030. And it was written by Ankie Kroeg and a few others. I don't know who the other people were. I just know that Ankie was involved. And it's written in the most beautiful language. It's the people who wrote that vision has a similar command of language that Buyani has. If you've read any of his articles, you will know that he writes like a poet. And I really want to encourage you to go and read, just brush it off and read it and be reminded of this beautiful possibility that I think is still there. We just need to make it happen together. So Buyani, I don't know whether can you remember, have you read Vision 2030? Have you read that beautiful?
Absolutely, absolutely. It is the core reference. When you know for a fact that we're now 9 years away from that, we are challenged as leaders to be able to do something different. And of course, I love the reference to numbers all the time. So 9 is the largest digit we have. So we can give maximum output. And if you notice that my slide had an 84 attached to it at the bottom, and that 84 has to do with the fact that we've only got 84 days and the year is over. And when you think through that, 8 is about new beginnings. So today, it's an opportunity for us to be able to have a new beginning. And 4 is related to the creation story as when the light showed up and was given identity. So we got to be able to know the sun is the sun to light the day or rule the day. And we got to know the stars and the moon to rule the night on the 4th day. So 8 and 4, new beginning, light. And we can work with that. Now, what is really crucial for us to be able to look into? That says we have a vision, a dream, wherein by 2030, a child born last year would be able to read with understanding, would be able to comprehend what it is that they are doing, would be able to live in a safe environment. Guess what? It calls for leadership, not management. Management works with a well-written script. Management follows the playbook. Leadership steps out of the playbook. You know, I often make reference to the fact that Madiba got to be able to lead this country in 1993, not in 94 when we went to vote. In 1993, he was able to face up for the first time on SABC television and command us. And he became the commander-in-chief of the army before he was the commander-in-chief officially. When Boipatong was burning, when Bisho had a culling of people, he took the leadership by being able to call us to oneness. He got to be able to challenge us at FNB Stadium. Take your pangas and throw them in the ocean because you need to go back to school. You need to build this nation. Now that's leadership. In management, he would have done things differently. He would have checked and say, what did the previous president say? What did the previous prime minister say? And then take out the race-related issues, but speak to us all. He did not. And that is the thing that I believe we need to be doing more of if we are to make Vision 2030 and even the United Nations Vision 2063. For that to be able to become reality, we need to commit ourselves to it. But if I get to just to build onto org, I call it the A to G that we may want to be able to take as part of our podcast. The starting point is that we also are needing to be aspiring to something. If we've got nothing that we're aspiring to, we actually kind of are only existing, we're not living. We need to be able to have our own clear aspiration, something we dream about. B, we've got to have something that we believe in. Belief is more than faith. Belief is that which actually gets us moving. Without belief, we are not going to be able to champion the future we desire. C is about choice. So often we use the words, I must do this, I have to do this. No, we don't. We choose to do things. And when we choose to do things, the energy we have flows differently. But when we have to do something, we are compliant. And compliance says, I do the bare minimum. In fact, it's the race to the bottom. It's not the race to the top. Choice takes us to the other point. And then D is about determination. making sure that what we do is not swayed by the things around us. When we are determined, we will be able to push like the ants do. If you have ever watched ants, you will notice that even if you were to be putting some honey or something, they've worked out where they want to get to their destination. They will avoid what you're putting through. They are determined to get there. Ants work through winter for summer. They start packing things up because they're looking into what summer is going to come. E is for excellence. I truly believe that we need to be able to pursue excellence as a habit. You know, Simone was talking about the importance of culture and values and value bases. Value is not a value until you attach value to it. Now, we often use the words, we are values-driven people. But when we ask, what does integrity really cost you? When you have not thought about that, value is just a word. Value is when you attach value to it. And when you look into F, it's about fulfillment. I really believe that we will die empty when we have done all we were here to be able to do. We are here to fulfill a particular assignment, and no one can do it as well as we can. And too often, we are pursuing other people's stuff, and we are not fulfilled in the process, which is why many people check out of their own organizations. That's why many are waiting for the day when they've finished their debts and the children are out of school, and therefore they can now quit work. They've long left the organization, but they're still collecting the check. G is for greatness. I truly believe that each and every one of us is endowed with seeds of greatness. And Madiba put it so beautifully, and he was borrowing from Marin Williamson, about how we so often, in fact, maybe I should close off with that quote from Madiba, if you don't mind. I want us to be able to take that with us, because it's so critical for us to understand. You know this. It says our deepest desire, okay? Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. It's our light that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant? Who am I to be gorgeous? Who am I to be talented? And who am I to be fabulous? Actually, who are we not to be? Who are we not to be? Greatness is in us. Let's make it work.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Buyani. Thank you so much for that reminder that we are being called to lead, every single one of us, in every conversation, in every setting, in every group that we find ourselves in, whether it is the Champion Innovators WhatsApp group, Buyani, or the conversation we're going to be having tomorrow morning at coffee, or whatever party we're going to this week. If we all decide that we are committed to a better future and we go out there and we go and do it, I have no doubt that we can co-create it despite all of the despair. So with that, we're going to love you and leave you, Buyani. We're going to say thank you so much for joining us. We have, for those of you on the call, the 30 people are still with us, there's a little link and a request to please, just before you leave this call, to just click on that link, share with us any thoughts that you have about the session. We appreciate your willingness to show up with such grace and enthusiasm, Buyani, and to model what great leadership looks like. So thank you, everybody.
Pleasure.
Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again somewhere in the future.
Have a great one. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.